Yeah. That's what my wall does. Everything that I've got up there is all fed by strawberries. These are my raised pallets.
Make it bigger.
So we're doing it bigger than that.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage working with them and everything else.
No, I think it's
Letting really
What's on that?
Doesn't take a lot to fill them up. I said, you get full, they got full room.
I'll just keep that and I'll look here for detail.
So that's, it's $825.
Hopefully someone will know. That's on the PVC.
My mother used to sit there and watch that go up. Oh, you throw up first. She's in there, truly overflows. I've got it so that
We call the regular council meeting to order. I would just like for us all to stand and close our eyes and bow our heads and have a moment of silence for the Collins family. Thank you. I call the regular city council meeting, City of Tomball to order. I would like to invite you all to join in our opening ceremonies. Our invocation will be held by Pastor David Hinkle of Tomball Bible Church, and the pledges to the U.S. and Texas flag will be done by Chief Cook.
Let us pray. Lord, in your scripture, you say in Psalm 34:18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. And Lord, as we gave a moment of silent recognition for the Collins family, Lord, I just ask and I plead with you to be merciful on them. Comfort them as only you can, giving them assurance, Lord, that you are with them, that you have drawn close to them, and that you will bring them through. Lord, as a community, we have been grieving for some time with Uvalde, with the state of things in our nation, with a grocery store shooting in Buffalo. Lord, it leaves us asking, how long? But our trust is in you because we trust that you are a good and loving and merciful God. We thank you for this evening. We thank you for our city leaders. And we ask God for a spirit of unity and wisdom. And Lord, where there is difference of opinion or position, we just ask God that there would be a spirit of togetherness, even when we differ. Lord, we ask your blessing on all matters tonight and lead Tomball forward in a way that would honor and bless you for the good of your name and its citizens. It's in the name of Jesus Christ, your Son, my Savior, I pray. Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
and now pledge to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Mayor, before you even get started, for all you in the audience tonight, I don't know if y'all heard what the Nook did over the weekend. And all their proceeds, in other words, they gave the food for free, and every penny that they sold went to the Collins family. So please go to the Nook and eat and help them, because that's a single family. One family did that for them. And that was a lot of money, I guarantee it, that they donated. So if we'll go back and we'll support them, we can continue to do this for other people.
Right, and as Councilman Townsend said, people were coming in and paying $100 for a hamburger for the family. So it was a very generous donation, and that is what Tomball is. Tomball cares. We're so proud of this city. Thank you. Okay. At this time, anyone is available to speak on public comments. Will be allowed to speak on any matter other than personnel matters or matters under litigation for a length of time not to exceed 3 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to come up and speak on any item? Please put your name and your address. Did we have anyone to sign up, Doris?
I have 2 signed up under general comments. I have 3 who wish to speak on item G3, but there is no public hearing session for G3. So do you want them to speak now under public comments?
I guess so. We can't call them up.
We can call them up at G3.
We can call them up at
Yeah, you
G3.
can call them up
without-
at G3. It's your
Well,
choice.
Call them up for G3.
Okay.
What about general comments?
Bruce Hilligeist.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Quinn. Council members, my name is Bruce Hillegeist, and I reside at 15300 Cutton Road in Houston. I'm here to talk about the agenda item G4, Tomball Night. We are celebrating, as the chamber hosts this event, 50 years this year. We have a brand new logo and a lot of exciting things planned. We also are looking to the city to help with in-kind offerings at night. So G4 is a resolution to be passed that we hope that you will support so that we can offer our Shop Local campaign in the way that it should to help support merchants and all those here in the city of Tomball. So thank you. What I'd like to do, if you don't mind, is pass out a flyer to each one of you before I have a seat. Thank you for your consideration.
Joel DeJean.
All right, thank you. My name is Joel DeJean, and I am the LaRouche Independent Congressional Candidate for the new 38th District, which includes Tomball. Before I tell you why I'm running, I want to.
Sir, can you state your address?
Imogene Street, Houston.
Okay,
926.
thank you.
Before I tell you why I'm running, I wanted to extend my condolences to the students, family, and friends of the students and the grandfather who was slain in Centerville this past week. There was a tragedy for Tomball and the whole area. Now, you may be wondering, why are we paying $5 and up for diesel per gallon and rapidly approaching that price with gasoline? Well, it's because Joe Biden and his comrades in the Congress, like John Cornyn and Ted Cruz, have built a huge pipeline all the way to the center of Ukraine and are pouring diesel and gasoline on the fire that was started not in February, but was started by NATO expansion 32 years ago. Now, in order to deal with the crisis in diesel and gasoline, Joe Biden is scheduled to go to Saudi Arabia in the coming weeks. And he's going to beg and grovel in front of the Saudi monarchy to ask them to supply more crude oil to the United States. Now, maybe his new press secretary can tell him that we only buy crude from democracies. She should tell him that Saudi Arabia is not only a vicious fascist monarchy, but Saudi Arabia was the nation that financed and supplied the hijackers that killed thousands of Americans on American soil on September 11th. Now, my Republican opponent in this district, Capitan Wesley Hunt, is proud of his service in Operation Iraqi Freedom and is even more proud of his service as a diplomatic liaison to Saudi Arabia. Now, I have asked Wesley, what was he doing in Saudi Arabia? Training them to fly Apache helicopters to kill Yemeni school children in school buses, for weddings, for funerals? Well, maybe Biden can take Wesley over there to Saudi Arabia so he can point out the sites. Now, my program is not to beg and grovel and push Ukraine into a perpetual war with Russia that will rapidly lead to a nuclear war, which could be the last war in history. My program is instead of sending $54 billion to Ukraine, we should use that money.
Mayor,
Sir,
Mayor, time is up.
yeah, sir, your 3 minutes is up.
Okay, well, my program is on the cards.
All right, thank you.
No more comments under general.
Okay. We'll be moving on to reports and announcements. Our Tomball City Pool is open. So Jerry Matheson Park Pool, regular season will begin. It's open starting this past weekend, right?
Friday.
Okay, great, right. It will, the next is June 11th is second Saturday at the depot. Tomball Kids Club activities start July 7th, 12th, 14th, 19th, 21, 26, and 28, and in August from 10 to 12 at Jurgens Park. Our July 4th celebration and Street Fest is going to be July 4th, 6 to 10 at Four Corners Business 249 and 2920. July 9th, we will have second Saturday at the depot. And August 5th, we will have the 50th annual Tomball Night Parade of Lights Health and Wellness Expo that Bruce Hillegeist informed us about. So 50 years. Congratulations, Bruce. I know you weren't there for 50 years, but we now have reports by city staff and members of council. Our cybersecurity, Mr. Tippy.
Mayor and council. This is our Tomball IT cybersecurity report. I'm Doug Tippy, the IT director, and this is Ben Leto, our senior IT specialist. Go ahead and go to the slide, Ben. So we'll start out with our primary cybersecurity systems. The core of our network and the core of our cybersecurity is our next generation firewall. It does active scanning on every connection in and out of our network. And next generation means that it is the latest, greatest platform that's come out. We've replaced our firewall 3 times in the last 10 years just to keep up with cybersecurity, just to keep up with the latest and best equipment we can have. It does do geo-blocking of websites, email, and connections. So there's countries that can't even communicate to us because they're just automatically denied. Our firewall is configured to deny any and all traffic, inbound and outbound, and it is specifically configured for the exact communications that we want it to do. We have 4 spam filters. We also have 4 antivirus filters. We have one in the cloud. Our firewall is a spam and antivirus filter. Our email system has its own spam filter, and our users are trained to be spam filters. Same with antivirus. We have 4 antivirus filters as well and I actually have a diagram in one of the next slides and stuff coming up that I'll be able to kind of show you the traffic map. For Microsoft updates, we have a Windows software update server. It communicates with Microsoft every night. Any kind of risk or vulnerabilities in Microsoft softwares on our workstations or our servers automatically get those updates installed. And we also have an endpoint agent, which is our antivirus system, and it also downloads software updates for things like Adobe and Java and automatically installs those. Best practices, we operate with best practices. Ben and I are a large part of our IT team here, but it's just the 2 of us. We have consulting vendors that we've worked with for 20 years. We bring these consultants in to spend the day with us to help us install a new firewall, to help us install new servers and use best practices. These people do it on a daily basis, even more so than Ben and I do, so that we use their expertise to come in and help our team provide the best configuration that we can. We go to conferences. I saw Lori at a conference last year on cybersecurity. So we try to stay active with conferences. We constantly evaluate our hardware, software, and all of our technology, really. But it's a daily thing for us. There's not a day that goes by that we don't have email, a conversation, see something on the internet, something about cybersecurity. We do get emails from our vendors that are hardware vendors and stuff. If there's any kind of a vulnerability, if there's something going on in the news, we get news updates and stuff to keep us informed about cybersecurity. So go to the next slide, Ben. So here's some reports from some of the cybersecurity equipment. This is a report from our firewall, and it's 2 days. That's a 2-day representation. And you can see that there are 3 million, almost 3 million block connections by our firewall during those 2 days. That's not people like targeting Tomball. That's just the general internet communications. There's always people trying to probe, network connections on the internet and stuff. And that's just how many connections the firewall blocks on a 2-day basis. And y'all can ask questions too. I want to make sure I cover the stuff that you guys want to know about. And go to the next one. Okay, our spam filter. The interesting part about that report is the red there is 16% of our email is spam. When we first installed the system, it was 85% of our email was spam. And the spam system sends a denied response back to the sender for spam. So after time, the spam people realize all their spam is getting blocked by us, so why waste time? And so our spam email has come from 85% of our inbound traffic to now 16% of our traffic. And okay, this next slide is our Know Before user training. This is a software-based cybersecurity training program. For all computer users of municipal government, it's required by the state of Texas to take annual training for cybersecurity. And this is the software that we use. This slide, so the software does our annual training, and there's different training pieces that we can choose. And it is required annually. This software also sends test emails like fake spam and, just to test our users. Once they go through training monthly, you'll get an email from maybe more, maybe less from Know Before. We can put our city seal into this software. We can tell the software we use Wells Fargo, and it'll create a fake Wells Fargo email. It'll create a fake email from the IT department using our city seal. And so if someone clicks on it, it schedules them for another training class. Now, it gives them a 15-minute refresher that it signs them up for. The interesting part about that slide is that the average, the account average over the 6-month period of that clicker training, 6% of our users actually clicked on that test email, which they shouldn't have. We'd like that to be 0, but 6 is not bad. The industry standard for municipal government is 15.5%. So we're well below the average, but again, we'd like to be 0 on that, and we'll keep striving for that. Okay, next slide, Ben. So this is a pretty simple map. The cloud is basically the internet. It shows the cloud spam filter there. So that lives inside the cloud. So all of our email that gets sent to the city of Tomball goes into that cloud spam filter and gets scrubbed for viruses and spam, and then encrypted before it's sent to our firewall. So the little red brick wall is our firewall. It also does a spam filter scrub, antivirus scrub, and then passes the data into our data center where our email server is. Our email server has built-in spam filtering as well. It unencrypts the email and sends it out to the workstations where our trained users are. They're trained not to click on spam or viruses as well. So that's kind of the 4 spam filters and antivirus filters as well. That person at the keyboard is an antivirus filter as well. We don't get any viruses that person doesn't click on, whether they're out browsing the internet or whether they're receiving an email with a virus. I say that we have not had a virus in our network in years, through email especially, or really spam. I mean, our spam filter system prevents like the normal advertisement type spam from ever getting into our system. I also want to point out our backup system. It's offsite. It's city-owned fiber that goes to that offsite backup system. 100% of our data, 100% of our servers are backed up every single night. This is the type of emails that we're dealing with right now. It's not necessarily spam because it's not like the typical advertisement type spam.
I didn't send that.
You did not. Are you sure? So let's look at this,
Come from.
because this is a socially engineered email. It's a phishing email, and the industry term is it's a spear phishing email because they have educated themselves on the personnel that work at the city of Tomball. And then they've generated an email account that's MYOR for something, whatever, at gmail.com. That's a legitimate email. They can do that. They can go anywhere to 100 different email systems, create a free email, and then change the display name to Lori Klein Quinn, and know that Jessica works for the city of Tomball, and type up that email and send it to her. And there's nothing that can prevent that, because it is, at the time now, it's a legitimate email. The good thing is Jessica forwarded it to the help desk and said, hey, this doesn't look right at all. And of course, she's right. So let's look at some of the red flags on this. So obviously, Lori sending an email from a Gmail account. I mean, that's just a huge red flag. We did add that caution banner. John had requested that the last time we did a department update, so we've added that. So that's a red flag that's coming from out of our organization. So Lori's going to send us an email from out of the organization. That's a red flag. She used the word discreetly. I need you to do something for me discreetly. That's just a red flag. Would be glad to receive your response through email. That's just the wording of that. You just got to look at that, and would Lori really say that? That's part of what the social engineering email attacks are right now, and that's the kind of things we've got to be careful for. So I mean, I hope that that's kind of the training and everyone, the things that people think of when we receive email, because email is a nice communication tool, but it's just not the end all be all in communications.
Now, if somebody responds back to that email, is that going to hurt our system at all?
No, it's not.
Because the next email after that is asking for an Apple gift card.
Yeah, right. How would you know, Mark?
I've gotten a number of them from
I know.
people who are actually in this room supposedly.
Mark responded twice, and I know he was not offering to do anything discreetly.
Oh, no, if you actually read the response.
I know you wanted to see what the response was.
It's cheap entertainment.
Yes, I get it. I get it. We laughed about it too when we saw that. When we see stuff like that, we look at, did anyone even, we want to make sure that no one's doing something. When I saw it was you, I'm like, okay, well, I know he's just having
All
some
I would
fun.
ask for is if anybody ever uses an Apple gift card and scratches the back, please send me the picture of the used card, because that's what they want.
Yes,
So
exactly.
I'd like to send it to them.
Exactly.
Educate me more.
And one of the biggest scams is the Microsoft support thing, and they want a Target card or a Walmart card. Microsoft, you work for Microsoft support and you want to get paid by a Target card or something. It's just silly. But anyway, this is the biggest threat we have right now is by having these engineered emails that are, phishing attacks on. So. So that's it. Any questions? Any other questions?
If, a lot of us have our emails on our phones.
Mhm.
And is there any special security that needs to happen from phones or laptops sending things
If
into the
you,
city?
so obviously the complexity of your password matters. Also, the biggest thing with a phone is not connecting to an unknown wireless network. Okay. If you go to a Hilton and you stay at the hotel and they give you a card at the front desk that says, here's our wireless and here's our password. That's secure wireless and stuff like that. The problem is there's some guy in the lobby that created his own access point and has a wireless network called Hilton Free. That's someone that's out there trying to capture your data by you saying, oh, here's some free wireless and connecting to that. It's you 100% have to know what you're connecting to, and you 100% have to know the email you're replying to. And it just kind of come down to that. So the biggest threat with phones and stuff is to make sure you're on a good known network and not connected willy-nilly to just any old network. If you go to Starbucks, don't connect to the Starbucks, use your cellular and stuff, and don't connect to anything that says Xfinity free or, Starbucks free or anything like that. They're just looking for someone to connect to you to, hopefully.
Do we have written guidelines for all employees as to when they can use their iPad or their laptop or their phone?
We have some, but
to
no,
log in?
we make it pretty well known that we will obviously give loaner laptops out. We keep kind of a pool of laptops that we give out. And then we also have our MiFi devices from FirstNet that we let people borrow. FirstNet also for $4 a month lets you hotspot your phone.
Okay.
So you can now take your laptop or your iPad and stuff and just hotspot through your phone and do that through a known good secure connection.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're answering city emails on any device other than a city provided device, you're opening yourself up to having your personal devices looked at for open records requests, correct?
Not necessarily the device, but an email account, perhaps.
So,
Right.
yeah.
The city,
But if you're responding back through the city's website, everything is documented in the city website.
Right, but I'm just saying, as far as using your personal email address, because I get emails from various people on my personal one.
Right.
And that opens that up for privy of other folks.
So as our employees, though, everyone's been trained, including council, on what to do and not to do when they're out of town and they want to come log into their email here. Carrying your own Wi-Fi, carrying your own, do not use hotels, do not. And we have that in writing, so everyone understands what they should and should not do. That's one of the things, if we don't have, we may want to have that,
yeah,
so
we don't have.
employees know.
Yeah,
what they
we
can
don't
use to
have
log
like
in.
what to connect to as a policy necessarily written down. I think it's part of our training and part of our discussions and stuff, so.
Not to use hotel Wi-Fi ever.
Well, right,
Okay,
So just to add on that, it's a work in progress. We have to continue. It's not a work in progress. It's a continual thing. It's a training that needs to happen at a minimum once per year. There is a need to formalize a lot of these policies.
I think
and
so, yeah.
procedures.
Mhm.
Where actually we are working on that. It's a two-part when it comes to security. One is on the treasury side. One is on the actual technical side that we are going to get proposals to have an outside to come in and look at both sides and then establish that formal policies and procedures. But the training never stops. We have to continue and we have to practice. That's, to me, the know before test emails is probably some of the best stuff that we can do right now.
I think it is. We get a lot of emails throughout the day. Just check on this for me, please. A lot of them through like the community development. They'll have a vendor send a file, like a large file and they use like a large file system to send it through. And sometimes that email will have no context. The file is legitimate. It's a signed inspection document or something like that, but they'll put zero context, no personal name, no phone number, no business, and to me, that's just a red flag email that you get complacent on opening those files up out of those emails, thinking that it's another company sending us a document and they just didn't bother to type in a little note to me or whatever. You get complacent opening stuff like that up, and then, that's when you get hurt. And so a lot of times we'll tell them, don't open it. Whoever that is, they'll call us and say, did you get that email? Or they'll resend it with information. So yeah, it's ongoing.
do we have routine changing of passwords of employees in key
Yes.
elements like finance?
Here's something else.
Community.
I totally missed this in there. I made it in my notes. Our firewall has the encryption capability that allows us to be CJIS certified. So that's Criminal Justice Information Systems. And it allows our police department to connect to the state of Texas and the FBI. we get audited every 3 to 4 years for CGIS accreditation, and we've never failed that. That means someone from Texas Department of Transportation, I think that's who runs it. Is that true, Ben? They come down every 3 to 4 years and spend 2 to 3 days with us. And they have a great big, huge book. And a lot of it is our computer network, our password policies, and a lot of other written policies from the police department and stuff that allows them to have a direct connect. We have a direct connect from our firewall into the state of Texas and into the FBI to allow them to look people up, because of that accreditation. And we've always kept that and always maintained it. And part of it is replacing the firewall. The new firewall does FIPS 140 encryptionation that allows us to have a direct connection to Harris County as well. So we can use Harris County resources to look people up as well by having that level of security. And Ben's reminded me this a couple of times. We carry that same level of CGIS kind of network and security over to the rest of our network, to Public Works and City Hall network and everywhere. So,
Okay.
yeah.
One question, how do we avoid ransomware and ransomware in our backups? And if you looked at municipalities that have been subject to that and what went wrong, that I'm sure they backed their stuff up to, I'm sure they did all the things. And
So
how did they get ransomware and how do we avoid it?
So
It's a lot of the backups aren't great. They don't have great backups in place. Your backup is segmented from your network. The ransomware can't touch it. So only the backup server can talk to our virtual machines, and it makes a physical copy of that server. So there's no chance of infection between the two.
and also ransomware is a program. It's a virus. So it's got to go through 4 antivirus filters to land on that workstation. It's got to go through 3 to land on that workstation and then have that person click on it for that, because it is an actual application that installs and then encrypts your files and gives you a little note at the, little document at the end of the folder that tells you how to contact them to make payments with Bitcoins or whatever. So we haven't had that type of a file get through its network in 4 or 5 years. I don't know. It's just been so long since I've even seen one. It just hasn't happened in so long.
Have we had any nuisanceware? It's not a virus, it's a bacteria. But when you're typing, it types backwards and it's just a nuisance. Okay, good. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for keeping us safe. Next, Sasha. Report on Texas Deuce at the Days at the Depot.
Good afternoon. Honorable Mayor Quinn, and good afternoon, the council. I'm excited to share with you the news about the Texas Deuce Days. If you remember, it was an event, a 3-day car show, May 12th through 14th, and they decided to host that event in Tomball at the depot. And the Texas Deuce Days team is very grateful for all the support we've provided for them. And they were really ecstatic about being here. And all the people who came to the show enjoyed it as well. So although they did not meet the goals that they have put forth, it was still a fun and successful experience for them. They had 87 hot rods from Texas and Louisiana, and they were able to raise almost $4,000 for the 2 charities that they've been supporting. And they received enormous positive feedback about Tomball and the location that they chose this year. Quickly, some highlights for you. The venue was really enjoyed. The travel was easy and it was safe. Tomball came through, Tomball represented. It's not just the city, it was the businesses, the community, and all the people who came out. The cars were great and it was very well organized. So it was definitely a successful event. Some of the feedback for low attendance was that it was a hot day and their target audience is elderly group. So it was a little bit hard on them. They think that high gas prices also affected their attendance as well. They think because of the date they chose, it was the graduations and other events that were conflicting for the people. And comparing to the 2020 event, they had a little bit of a competition with other car shows in the area. So they think that's affected it as well. But overall, the advertising and the marketing of the event was amazing. They received 89,000 views between their website and all the promotions that we've done on social media as well. So they've been really grateful. And of course, our city team did a great job. Public Works people have been working there all day and nothing but smiles. So it was wonderful. Any questions?
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Next is item F, approval of the minutes of the May 16th, 2022 canvas and regular city council meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 16th?
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Okay, call for the vote. I used to sit there and Derek helps a lot.
I'm not voting for them.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. All right, new business. Next item on the agenda is the presentation of the Tomball Economic Development Corporation 2021-2022 annual report. Ms. Kelly Violet.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Let me get that to pull up, and I'm sorry if some of it is a little bit fuzzy. When I was converting it from PowerPoint to PDF, it did a little bit of a funny thing with the graphics. So I'm happy to present to you our 2021-2022 annual report. One thing that we've talked about and we've kind of struggled with over the years is an identity, a tagline for the EDC, a brand. And I'm really excited that this year I feel like we came up with something that really is reflective of the EDC and of Tomball. So we're naming this Shaped by Culture, Driven by Commerce, and Connected by Community. And I think that really is reflective of the Tomball culture. So I just want to start a little bit by talking about Tomball EDC. So we were created in 1994 after the citizens of Tomball voted to pass a 1/2-cent sales tax dedicated to economic development. That has changed kind of over the years as the statute has changed as far as what the EDC can do, the type of EDCs and whatnot. We are considered a type B organization, which gives us the most leeway in being able to do economic development type projects. We're also under 20,000 in population, which gives us even more discretion to do projects that are things like retail, smaller mom and pop type projects that are not necessarily your core economic development efforts, your industrial manufacturing, those types of things. So that's why when you see our projects, the breadth of projects can run from a $2,500 grant for rental assistance to a $250,000 grant for infrastructure for a new project. So that's why you see such a wide range. Other economic development organizations in our region don't have that benefit of being under 20,000 and being a type B. There are kind of three main things that we focus on. We focus on attracting new business and industry, retaining and promoting our existing businesses, and then coordinating the economic development efforts in the city and really working with our regional partners. We are governed by a 7-member board of directors that are appointed to council, are appointed by council, and they are appointed for 2-year terms. Our mission is to promote economic development in the city of Tomball through the attraction of new business and industry and the retention of existing businesses by providing resources. That's really essentially what we do. And resources is subjective in this mission statement. And I want to make sure that you understand what I mean by that. A lot of people think, oh, the EDC, they do grants, they do incentives, and that's really what we exist for. The reality is we do a lot more of coordinating and connecting and working to provide resources in a very wide variety of ways to our community and to our businesses. And so I always hesitate with that word resources because instantly it's synonymous in economic development with incentives. And that really is a fairly small part of what we do. Our vision is that Tomball is a community of choice for businesses, residents, and visitors. offering a dynamic economy, a strong labor force, and unmatched living and working environment. This gives you a kind of a snapshot of our operating revenues. This is from our fiscal year 22 adopted budget. So total annual resources are about 24.7 million. If you look at our expenditures, you see that about 664,000 goes to administrative. We have about 1.1 million in city debt service. So those are things like the Southside wastewater treatment plant that we are still paying on, the main utility trunk lines on Holdreath and Huff Smith Corville, the debt service on our business and technology park infrastructure, as well as the medical complex and South Persimmon project. So that's what makes up that 1.1 million. We have an estimated total amount of expenditures at 12.8. I'll tell you, we're not going to get anywhere near that. What we budget for is about $2.5 million in potential project grants to be paid out every year. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to get paid out within that year. That's kind of our budget figure. And when you look at some of the projects that we're working on, and I'll go through some of that, you'll see why we've had some numbers plugged in, but haven't really moved the radar, the needle on those. We have indirect economic development expenses about 600 and I'm thinking that's 89. My eyesight's getting bad. And then grants, loans, and other expenditures, and that kind of covers a whole wide range of things, about 10.4. So ending fund balance of 11.8. As I said, it will be much higher than that when we go into the budget process and you see the projections and where we are currently. So our annual report is really based on our achievement of strategic work plan goals. So what drives our organization and our efforts throughout the year is the strategic work plan that the board of directors and city council approves. Last year's strategic work plan, and we are currently in our final year, hopefully what you'll approve tonight is the final year of a 3-year plan. So the strategic work plan goals that we were operating under last year is current fiscal year is business retention and expansion. That really is primary, keeping our existing businesses, working with them to help them expand, to help them be successful. And really, you know, with COVID, this came out more than anything, the importance of working with them. And it continues to be, especially as we deal with workforce issues. Number 2 is attraction and recruitment. So continuing to try and bring new industry and new businesses to the city. And number 3 is development and redevelopment of Old Town. So there's a lot of projects that we're kind of involved in, whether directly or indirectly, and that falls under that development and redevelopment of Old Town and why we are involved in some of those. And you'll see when we go through the strategic work plan, which is next, those goals and action items under that section. We have an item that is under innovation and entrepreneurship. I'll tell you, we've struggled with this particular goal over the years because you can't really quantify some of these goals. And so the strategic work plan that we're presenting tonight, we've taken that goal 4 and kind of put it into several other goals so that we're able to really execute what we're looking at doing, because it itself as a goal, we've kind of sat on it, and I'll explain why. And then education and workforce development. And again, this has come up even higher on our importance level with regard to COVID and the lack of workforce that pretty much all of our employers are experiencing. So in our annual report, you see that this past year, we did approve 9 project grants. The capital investment that will be created from that is just under $50 million. Our grant amount is about $873,000. That will result in about 240 created jobs, 74 relocated jobs, and almost 1 million square feet of new space. And you can see the list of businesses and projects that we worked on that one. Obviously, one of the kind of highlight projects of the year was the Lovett Industrial. This is the Interchange 249 project. We were able to announce Macy's as the first tenant or occupant in that park. And we're continuing to work with them on other prospects that we're working on. Under our business improvement grant and facade improvement grant program, we were able to help 36 businesses. We have several different categories under that program. And so Property is a category, facade is a category, signage, and landscaping. And so you can see the breakdown under each of those categories. But the total project capital investment, when you combine them all, is about 1.1 million. And what we've found is the return on our investment on these business improvement grants and facade improvement grants have been 20% or higher, because the more they have coming back to them, the more they're likely to spend on their projects. And we see that over and over and over. Under the facade improvement grant program, we did 2 facade grants. And if you'll recall, this is specific to Old Town. So the facade improvement grant allows us to work with property owners, business owners that are doing a major facade improvement, but also require internal improvements. Those things are specific. So it's structural items, ADA, plumbing, electrical, those types of upgrades. If they are required and they are going to be part of an overall redevelopment, then we will do up to $50,000 under the facade improvement grant. And we did have 2 this past year. So this is a good example. This is the book Attic. I say attic every time. Attic. Sorry about that. This is on. Stop it. This is on 2920, so you can see the before and the large improvement on the after. So this is a really neat example of them utilizing our facade improvement grant program to not only improve the existing building, but then add on new additional space. Our business and technology park had quite a successful year. We are down to our last lot in the park, and it's 18 acres. We bought about 10 acres back from Packers Plus a couple of years ago. And so that really kind of skewed our numbers a little bit as far as our projections on percentage of the park sold. But we are at a point now where we are at our very last lot. So our totals are pretty exciting. We've got about 47 million in capital investment that's been invested into the park, 544,000 square feet of new industrial space, 362 jobs created, and about 414 jobs relocated. And it was exciting. This past year, we did rank as the number 10 on the top 10 industrial parks in the country by business facilities. We were the smallest, but that was a pretty exciting win for us with that park. So we beat out a lot of our neighboring communities. So as you can see, lot 8 is the last lot that we have left. Lot 4.1, which is kind of at that corner of Spell Road and Huffsmith Corville, that is pending. And so we will look at I think a 25,000 square foot building is what they're looking at building there. And we are kind of holding out on lot 8 to try and get a larger user. We've had a lot of interest in subdividing that. But if you look at the layout of the park, we really designed it to have kind of the larger users on the south end and then transition into the smaller users on the north of the cul-de-sac. We did have 3 lot sales in fiscal year 22. So we sold lot 3. That was to Billiard Factory. We sold lot 9, and that was to a company called Peshco. And then lot 15, and that was to Nixon Industrial. And Nixon is the developer we've worked with on that north cul-de-sac. So he owns lots 12, 13, 14, and now 15. So our total revenue on those sales was about 1.7. And this is just a snapshot to give you kind of an overview of the last 11 years. What have we done as an EDC? And it's hard to quantify that, because you can always say, okay, well, we worked on these many projects and we helped create this many jobs. But when you start really putting the numbers together, it's kind of mind-boggling, when you think about it. So if you look at 2011, we did about 5.7 million in capital investment on our projects. We had a good amount of square footage that was created, 58 jobs. We had about 60 jobs retained, and then about 58 jobs relocated. And you go down to 2022, and you can see the increase that we've had along the board. And that really has kind of been consistent. The number of projects, number of grants has been fairly consistent throughout the years. But I tell you, it is Tomball is a kind of an interesting case study with regard to economic development because of our size, because of the ability of our community to generate and attract some of these users. It's not the norm. We're in a very special situation.
Kelly, can you go back to 13, slide 13, I believe it is, that one right there. Did you just say that it's lots 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 are owned by the same individual?
12, 13, 14, and 15 are, yes.
When we first came up with the industrial park, or you all did, one of my great concerns was for people to purchase the property in there and never do anything with it.
Mhm.
What is the status of them bringing businesses to those lots?
So all of his buildings within those lots are leased.
Okay,
He has one building that is coming up for renewal, I believe, the end of summer. And so we're working with a couple of prospects that are interested in that building. He's been able to lease up really pretty quickly. And the reason why we worked with him specifically versus some of the other developers that approached us was the fact that when he builds a building, it's turnkey. He's got 3,000 square feet of office that is completely built out. They get the keys, they can move in. When we talked to other developers, it's a shell. And when you're working with businesses that don't have the time to go through permitting and construction and, then get a space and then have to get an architect and go through all that. So really that was why we decided to work specifically with him in the park. And it's been great because he has a huge investment in making sure that the maintenance of those facilities is retained, the quality, and it's been a really good partnership. I will say, I think he's looking at other lots in the area, so we may see more of that type of product. He does a pretty standard building. It's about 25,000 to 30,000 square feet, depending on his lot size. 3,000 of it is typically office, and it's completely built out, 32-foot height, crane ready. And it is.
so there are buildings on those pieces.
Oh,
of
yes,
property.
those are all built. Yep. So the only lot in there that doesn't have a building on it, other than the lots that we have in the light blue, is lot 11. And lot 11, we sold a couple of years ago, and we had an issue with the buyer's health. And my understanding is that is currently in the process of possibly being purchased.
Because like I said, I just don't want us to have an industrial park that doesn't have working buildings there. And so maybe in the future, when you have this, maybe just put a square there, that there's a building on it or something.
Sure.
So that we know that.
Yep.
Please and thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Kelly, I'd like to also add that when Nixon came to us, we were resistant to just having a spec building, right? But he owns those buildings long-term. So this is not a developer that you typically see that builds it, flips it once it throws off cash flow. So he's unique in that way, and that's borne out as we've seen. So he's reliable.
Yes, and very local. I mean, he's built in Oak Ridge North, kind of this North Houston region, and
Families
very,
involved,
yes.
sons, this is a long-term deal for them.
Thank you.
And Kelly, in lot 11, that may be being resold, do they come to y'all to say what's going in there?
So what
does
they
that
have to do is
approve?
submit their architectural plans
Okay.
to the Property Owners Association. So the Property Owners Association still has several of our board members on it, but
Mhm.
since we reached that threshold of private owners to developer owned lots, that it did change. And so now we have, in fact, Nixon's son is on the board of directors for the Property Owners Association. And we have several others that are hopefully going to get on that and replace some of our EDC board members who have been the Property Owners Association up until now, essentially.
So the Properties Owners Association approves what and who that will be sold to?
So we have deed restrictions on the overall 100 acres, and the Property Owners Association, when they submit, essentially what they're submitting is the elevation, so we can see what the building's going to look like. And we make sure that the height is met as far as, the requirements, setbacks, those types of things, parking, pretty much a similar process to what the city would go through. Although some of our deed restrictions are a little bit more, I don't say, are quite a bit more restrictive than the city ordinances. And that's how we've been able to get, the tilt wall buildings and have kind of the aesthetic enhancements that we've been able to achieve in the park.
It's not going to be a sports complex. It's going to be something similar to what would be in the business park.
Right, yes,
That's what I was asking.
yes. It most likely it will be a very similar user.
If I may, Mayor, just for the audience's information, the reason this is so important to you all, because you all pay taxes. And part of the taxes you pay, sales tax, goes to TEDC. The TEDC invests those, and this is part of the investment of your money that you've paid in taxes. That's why it's so important that we make sure that this is an outstanding situation. And Kelly and the TEDC has done a wonderful job.
Thank you.
And we're very grateful for what the work they've done into it. Chad, Laura, you were on the TEDC at one time as well, Randy. But like I said, it's your money. That's why we want to make sure it's done right.
That's the end of the annual report presentation. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
And there's no vote on this. This was just for a presentation. It's the next item that Kelly will be presenting, which is talking about the strategic work plan for 2022 and 2023. That will be on the approval on the agenda or denial on the agenda, whichever. Any other questions that you had on this?
Kelly, I mean, I don't want to know specifics, but does the EDC have any plans to do any future business parks? Maybe not as big as this
Not a
one?
future business park. We did look at expansion opportunities, and last year and the year before, we really looked at opportunities for us to take on either an expansion of the park or a kind of a phase two, a secondary park. And really what it boiled down to after looking at lot prices now, infrastructure costs, and what our purpose is, it doesn't make financial sense for us to do that. When we did the business and technology park, we got that property for 46 cents a square foot, dirt cheap. But we also had to put in almost $13 million in infrastructure. There's a reason why we got it so cheap. And it filled a void. There was a void. We didn't have an industrial park like that in this area. And it was really a challenge in trying to respond to some of these leads and attract some of these businesses, because one of the first boxes on there is in a business park, in a light industrial zone. I mean, there's a lot of steps, that you're having to kind of jump through. And when we did this park, it really made sense because there was nothing like this in this area. If you look at it now, and I think partly because of what we've been able to create and attract there, the private side's picking that up. And that's the goal, right? We're supposed to fill a gap. We're supposed to help facilitate. And I think we've been successful in doing that. And so in my opinion, and I think the board's opinion, it doesn't make sense for us to try and go out and compete with the private side because they're filling that gap, whereas we don't have to at this point.
Well, the reason I was asking is a couple months ago, we had a developer come in and want to put a residential subdivision behind Baker Hughes. And I just, as you know, I didn't think that was a good idea for that area, but I did think putting a business park back there would probably make more sense.
And there's a lot of interest on that particular piece of property, as well as several other key sites in that area with regard to industrial.
So, any other questions on the presentation? And Kelly, if you go ahead and present your strategic work plan.
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, this is the final year of our 3-year strategic work plan. And so I'm going to wrap up a few of the things that we've been working on and kind of go through how we've changed this strategic work plan from last year. So as I mentioned in our current year strategic work plan, we have 5 goals. What we kind of did away with or melded into some of the other goals was the entrepreneurship goal. And that was because that kind of came out of the culinary incubator, the food hall concept, and we kept looking at it. We kept keeping that on there. But as we went through COVID and as we continued to go through it, it just sat there. And we thought, it makes sense to take that off to see where we can be more broad in our assistance for entrepreneurs and innovation. And so that's why you'll see the number of goals is reduced on this year's strategic work plan. So under business retention and expansion, and this is an area where Tiffany in my office is really over. So she's over BR&E, I'm over attraction, and then she does a lot of the youth and the workforce initiatives, and I work on a lot of the downtown stuff. So that's kind of just to give you an overview of how we structure our work duties internally. That's how we do it. So under business retention and expansion, we do site visits, and we typically do about 12 site visits a quarter. This past year on our current strategic plan, we did 50 despite COVID. So that was a great number. So our goal on this year, I believe, is 48. We're looking at we've done an annual online survey every year. So we want to continue to do that. And it helps to kind of look at priorities and look at changing conditions and see what issues are coming up from year to year, because it does change. And then we want to look at developing a Grow Tomball initiative. And that's really to kind of highlight and promote our local businesses. And if you go to our website, you'll see we redid our website last year, and I think it came out really, really great. And if you look on our website, you'll see that there's success stories. And one of our strategic plan goals the previous year was to identify companies locally that either pivoted during COVID or had challenges and were able to overcome it because they did something innovative or different. And so we started doing success stories on our website, and those are carried over into our newsletter. And we've got such great response on those success stories. And what we've found is it's interesting because a lot of site selectors, they'll tell you when you go to these conferences and you meet with them, they want to know the story of your community. They don't want to know the demographics. They already have researched all that. They want to know what the core of your community is, what it's about. And I've had more site selectors tell me that they've gotten a taste of what Tomball is from those success stories than any other thing that we've provided them. And so I'm really proud of that. And what we want to do is continue that and kind of carry that on even further and start doing some podcasts with some of our local companies, really get a little bit more engaged in kind of a social media aspect as to what we have here, what are our opportunities and resources are here in our own backyard. So our goal for podcasts is to do 2, and then we want to do 2 video stories as well. And then 6 success stories. Look at the next one. We have a number of business events that we host throughout the year, from our luncheon to roundtables. Those have kind of, had to adapt a little bit through COVID and after, but we're getting back on track with all of our dates. And so we want to continue to host our business events. We're looking at a goal of 4 for this next year. And then, just really continue to help provide resources, incentives, assistance to companies that are looking at expanding, adding equipment, or whatever that may be. Under goal 2, attraction recruitment, this is really to enhance and kind of create that target for Tomball. And so what we're looking at is we did a target industry analysis, and we're looking at trying to upgrade all of our marketing materials and branding materials so that it's all consistent. And if you look, and we've had this conversation, Sasha and I have had it, and a number of us have had it, about there's a lot of different kind of logos out there and a lot of different brands, for Tomball, but there's not one that's really unifying for all of us. And so what we want to do is, with our stuff, really try and make it as unifying with all of our different stuff as we can. We want to continue to develop and strengthen our ties with our site selectors, our brokers. Those are really kind of our first line with new prospects. And so, working with them and having those close relationships is really important. And then supporting infill and redevelopment. and opportunities to really help some of our local entrepreneurs. So partnering with landowners, developers, and investors, we're hearing a lot about co-working spaces. The Field was a project that we were able to help with. And that's one, I don't know if I know the mayor was able to go, I don't know if others, but that's the Bank of America building. And they went in and redeveloped it, and it's a co-working space. And we're seeing that type of activity really take off. So part of our strategic work plan goal is to help encourage that, to have 100% of our business and tech park sold. And then to continue to explore needed infrastructure. So there's a lot of areas, as you guys talked about at 4 o'clock, where infrastructure is important. And that's a gap that we can help fill. Infrastructure, if it is going to support business expansion, business development, as long as it's not solely residential, we can help with infrastructure projects. And then development and redevelopment of Old Town. This did come up on kind of our priority list as we went through a number of strategic planning sessions, as well as our surveys. So the development and redevelopment of Old Town came up higher on the priority list. And that's where you're going to see some of the projects over the next couple of months that are really going to be focused on this goal 3. So continuing to partner with the city on things like alleyway projects, infrastructure projects downtown, parking, any of those types of things that are going to help bring people to downtown, to help improve the aesthetics of downtown and the walkability. And one of the things that came out of a recent meeting was we had talked a lot about construction disruption for downtown merchants. And so what we put in here was to partner with our stakeholders to help minimize construction disruption and provide additional marketing assistance. So being able to help market is an area that's an eligible expenditure for us. And we can help with businesses that are needing assistance, whether it's marketing specific events, whether it's marketing specific shops. And you'll see in the next item, that's one that falls really under that category. We also did a marketing grant, if you'll recall, with the Railroading Heritage Museum several years ago. So it's not out of the norm for us to do those types of projects. You just haven't really seen them before a whole lot. And so we are also looking, and one thing that you'll be a part of over this next year is the redevelopment of the South Live Oak project. So we are looking at taking the 2 industrial buildings that are on South Live Oak, it's 202 and 204 South Live Oak, and redeveloping them. It will be phased, so we'll do the smaller building first, but redeveloping them into something that really is more of a fit for a downtown property. We want to be able to provide space for our existing companies that are out of space in their locations now. We also want to provide space for those that are wanting to move here and want to be in the downtown, but don't have anywhere to go. And we also want to provide space for our farmers market entrepreneurs that are moving on to that next step, because we are seeing that as a pretty big springboard for businesses in the community. And that, is kind of culminating in this little foodie town image that we're getting, which is pretty interesting. Let me see if there's anything else major I want to talk about on there. I think that the rest of it is just to continue to invest in some anchor projects, work with our partners, and I know you're getting tired. I'm sorry. I'll try it. So the last goal, education and workforce development. This is an area where we have really had some great success. So Tiffany has served on several different panels with TISD and worked really closely with Lone Star College Tomball on some of the STEM camps that she's created with Baker Hughes. They had just recently a graduation. It was part of initially it was called Igniting Minds, but she was a part of that. And so to see, the connection between our office and our future workforce, that's an area that we haven't really been able to be that involved in the past. And I'm really excited that we're able to do that, because we're able then to host our students and bring them into our businesses so they can see what's available to them in their own community. So it's been a fantastic partnership, and I'm really excited about continuing to work with them, as well as what they're looking at doing on the BJ Services campus. We had an item on our last agenda for May 10th to have the CTE coordinator come and do a presentation on the programs and what's going to be offered at the BJ Services campus. We asked her to come back at our next meeting because we thought it would be important for y'all to be there and listen to that as well. And so that'll be in our July meeting. We've been able to host career fairs and job fairs at both high schools, so Tomball High School and Tomball Memorial. We have several people in the audience who've attended those and been a part of them, so they can attest to hopefully the effectiveness of it. And just really continuing to work with our local educational institutions and make sure that there's a connection between our office and those organizations. With that, I think that's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions on the strategic work plan.
I have another question, Colin.
Yeah.
You mentioned in your presentation about helping out businesses and that. Is part of that what you're allowed to do? Is it like business training?
We
type
can.
of things? And I think I've spoken to you about this before. But there's programs out there for businesses here in Tomball. Since a lot of our sales in that today are purchased through the internet, there's a company out there called Shopify, which businesses can get set up with, develop their platforms, sell goods and services. A lot of them are sold through Amazon, where Amazon is not really a direct competitor to these people. I don't know if people realize that the majority of products that Amazon sells is from third-party services.
Yeah.
Putting together programs like that, I think, could help a lot of our businesses here in town.
Okay.
To sell goods and services, to actually expand their customer base if they're not aware of programs like that already.
Okay.
And maybe teaming up with the chamber could be a good program for them, just to bring programs like that to their attention.
Yeah.
Where, anywhere from like with Holscher selling doors, because it's not just small goods. that are
Right.
sold, it's big goods as well. So I just think programs like that could be a very good benefit.
Oh, I agree. And the other thing we're trying to formulate, we don't have it designed just yet. But there are so many products that are made in Tomball and very unique. And there's really nothing that kind of gives it this seal or this stamp. You have the Go Texans seal. And really, I think that would be something that would be amazing for us to create, and it have its own, made in Tomball seal, and that kind of be its own, thing. I mean, you can see it could be on t-shirts and be sold at, visitor center. I think there's a lot of things that we can kind of tap into with what's being made here locally. And the range is huge on the type of products, but to me, that we should be advertising that.
I just think there's a lot of opportunities that we could do as a citizen and an organization to promote businesses, than just being a local entity.
Yes. And we're absolutely open to those things. So if you have suggestions like that, please let me know.
It's a good idea. And part of it, learning Shopify for individual businesses is also teaching cybersecurity for that.
Yeah.
More online you are, the more vulnerable you are, but online is where a lot of business is done.
Yeah.
So tie that into your teaching. Any other questions? Okay, I will need a motion.
Mayor, can I touch on the subject? Most of you have missed all my funny jokes about this being my last meeting, that we had earlier today. So, but it is my last meeting, and I just wanted to, it's loosely related. I wanted to ask David, the funds we have that we paid for the meters, the 3 million that came in, we still have $1.3 million, somewhat unallocated. And just in the context of working with our downtown businesses, I would just ask City Council to maybe consider using some of those funds, allotting them as part of the maybe ameliorating the construction that's going to, eventually come through Main Street, and, see if we can help them make it through that period. I know everybody's going to be working hard on that. And we've got these funds available. We don't have to spend them for another couple of years, but I would just ask city council to, consider that coming up.
Those are ones for the meters and the park and stuff like that.
Yes, ma'am. Those
Okay.
are the
It's
ARP
the
funds.
overall, the ARP funds.
And
that-
so the
not
left
allocated?
that's not allocated, there's monies there that I think Councilman Diggs that you're talking about, maybe possibly grant to businesses, targeted grants for them.
I need a motion to approve the strategic development, talking about EDC strategic development plan.
Motion.
Second.
Okay. We need more discussion? Call for the vote.
It's going to take a second.
Motion carries unanimously.
The next item is G3, and I know that we have had people who would want to speak. So would they be coming up during the discussion portion of it or now?
You could do it whenever you want to, Mayor.
Okay, we're going to wait and do it. Well, let's go ahead and do that now then. So Kelly, if you would. Anyone who would like to speak on item 3G? G3? Pardon? Oh, okay.
Marilyn Dunnigan.
No. My name is Marilyn Dunnigan. I live at 535 East Hubsmith Road in Tomball. I'd like to thank the City Council for allowing me a few moments to speak about an agenda item to be discussed in tonight's meeting. Referring to item 2022-20 TEDC, wanting to award $40,545 to Sip Hip Hooray for advertising, promotion, and marketing of the downtown Sip and Stroll upcoming events. My concerns, I have a few here. One, the city's liability for this event. As this event does promote sipping, basically alcoholic beverages at several businesses participating as they stroll downtown, as the TEDC is under the umbrella of the City Council awarding this money, then approving this money for marketing and promotion of the Sip and Stroll events going forward, would the city be liable if there was a police event involving an accident or injury? Who would be responsible under that? Do we have any, have we had any police responses that have had to be made when, for example, the St. Patty's Day Sip and Stroll or the Halloween Sip and Stroll, since these events have probably the highest attendance so far? The next one, does this event have to provide police to monitor the streets? And if they're wanting an increase in attendance with this funding, will there be a need for additional police or additional public works expenses for bathrooms and trash things? The next Sip and Stroll is scheduled for June 18th, the summer party. That's also the event, I believe, for the fire and police department's little dunk tank festivities, and will also be in Father's Day weekend. Will that interfere with what they're trying to raise money for with the dunk tank fund that they're going to have at the farmer's market? So in final, I ask, does the city of Tomball need to commit $40,000 plus for another alcohol-related event in Tomball? Thank you.
Thank you.
Becky Klepper.
She does not want to speak.
Okay. She has two comments, one on G3 and one on G6. And she does not wish to speak, but she wishes to have her opposition to G3 and G6 read to the record. And then Vicky Britt Held does not wish to speak, but wishes to record her support for B3.
G3.
G3, sorry, G3.
Right.
And that's all the public comments I have signed up.
Okay, thank you. On public comment period, we cannot reply, but by talking then during the discussion, if council chooses to discuss more on that, they can. So I'd like to call Kelly Violet up to make the presentation for resolution 2022-20.
Tomball Economic Development Corporation received a request from Megan Morris, owner of Sipipare, for assistance with marketing of shop and stroll events. Sipipare was founded in 2011 and they moved into Tomball in 2021. They had quite the introduction to a lot of the other businesses there because their product is very unique. And they have a lot of people that come from Houston and other areas specifically to their store. After, I think, quite a bit of conversations with some of the other merchants downtown, it was requested that they try and put on a shop and stroll event. That first one happened in August of last year. And the success of that led to 5 more shop and stroll events. When we were approached and asked to help fund this grant, what we were looking at is what are the tangible items that we could legally fund for this? The tangible items are the promo cups that will be given out. Those will not say City of Tomball or EDC. The cost of the additional marketing that they're trying to add, as well as posters, flyers, ads, but it also takes away the cost for each of those individual businesses. So Sipipare has typically on these events absorbed about $900 to $1,200 in cost. And they came to us because they said, look, people are wanting us to continue these. We're getting German Fest numbers on our sales at these events. But I, as a business, can't keep absorbing this cost. And I don't want to raise everybody else's cost to continue to do this. And so they reached out to us and said, is there anything that y'all can do to help with the marketing of these events? And so the way this is structured, Ms. Morris had provided a budget, and she is roughly looking at $4,500 per event. And if you look in the grant agreement, you can see, in fact, if you pull up my presentation, please. So you'll be able to see the breakdown of what they are asking for reimbursement. The way this would be structured is the number of events, and she has it broken down per fiscal year 2022 and 2023. That's why the amount is the total, the 40,000, but it is based on per event. So as they have the event, they incur those costs. They have to provide to us documentation that they incurred costs on the cups, on the ads, on the marketing, all of those items that are covered under this grant. So it is reimbursement based specifically on those costs incurred per those events. Scroll down, please. Yeah, keep going. So this is just an overview. I think this was the Halloween event that they had. It kind of gives you an overview of the cups, the marketing type of materials. Yeah, go ahead and keep going. Same thing with the Christmas one. The Mother's Day event. You can see they provide a map and a label with the businesses that are participating. So this is the full grant request as far as the overall number of events. So they're looking at 2 events to carry out fiscal year 2022, and then a number of events for 2023. This is the budget breakdown. So if you look at the bottom, The cost for the last event was about $1,800. I think I'm seeing that correctly. So that the additional and what they're asking for the events moving forward is, you can see the additional cost is in the paid marketing. That's the bulk of it. The paid marketing that they're utilizing now is about $500. And I believe it's going up to $2,500. So that's a big increase over what they're doing now. It also would pay for the $35 that they are charging or asking contribution wise from the downtown businesses. So it would eliminate that. And then it covers the yard signs, the printing, and all of those items. So the reimbursement would be tied to these items. That might be it. And the applicant is here, and I know that there are others that may be here that would be interested in speaking as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Maybe during the discussion portion, we're reserved to call you back up. So I would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2022-20 TEDC.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
The question needs to be posed to Warren, does the city have any liability?
Under this scenario, I can't see that the city would have any exposure to this based on the program that Kelly outlined.
Well, the city is not participating in the provision of any
They're not,
alcoholic
no.
beverages or anything like that.
They're just providing marketing materials and whatnot. So, yeah.
So the fact that we're not paying for the alcohol does not mean that, it means we have no liability.
That and other things, yes. We have, I mean, the city is one removed from this because it's the EDC one. And
Or TDC.
right, TDC still, because they're not involved in the provision of alcohol. I can't see there being liability for that.
Go back to the individual businesses.
I'm going to speak out against this 100%. The hometown with the heart is not necessarily a place that I want to see that alcohol is the reason that people go into shops, period. I'm a recovering alcoholic. Why do you have to have alcohol to bring people into your shops? Shops should have enough product and pride in their product that it doesn't take alcohol to have people come in and get intoxicated to spend their money. I'm sorry. I'm grossly offended personally that anyone would come up with something that had to have alcohol involved in it, period. I've stood here on this dais or sat on this dais for many, many years. And you can ask my fellow councilman here and the mayor. I have spoke out against us having every festival in this town to include alcohol. There are people who have real problems with that and won't come out of their homes to join us in our festivals because they too are recovering. Think about what you're doing. Think about what you're showing our kids. We have shattered lives, which I've participated in for numerous years. As one of the people who go around with a sickle and a black cape on, I've watched parents go into the emergency rooms and have to write the obituaries for their kids who are involved in accidents with alcohol involved. The Grim Reaper is not a fun part to play in that, folks. It's not. I was a volunteer firefighter for many years in this town. And I have worked many fatality accidents involving alcohol. And we tell our kids, be good little boys, be good little girls, don't drink and drive, don't drink and party. And yet we're going to go out as the city of Tomball and ask people to come to an event that one of the main driving forces is alcohol. Shame on us, shame on us. Thank you.
If I can speak up, and Derek, you and I have talked about this a lot, and I gave up alcohol 5 years ago. And but I still support, and the libertarian in me comes out more than Derek, even though we're, have similar alcohol stories or what have you. But this event is wildly successful. It's the shops are super excited about it, and not taking anything away from your point, but it is really special. We have an entrepreneur here that came up with this idea, paid for it out of her own pocket. I've talked to shop owners. They're really excited about it. I think I was talking to Vicky B's sister, who was telling me their sales are, just really phenomenal. So I think it's the kind of thing and the kind of creativity that we're getting out of downtown. And, I'm not ready to apply that standard to German Fest. And, we have lots of events. We got Bugs and Brew, and I don't think applying it here, then the question is, where do we not apply it? Who do we apply it to, and that sort of thing. And I think it's been, it's not an idea. It's something that's been done. It's been wildly successful. And even though we're a similar mind on alcohol, I really support this, and I support the folks that have done it downtown. I think it's just really, really creative, and I'm for it, and would ask for y'all's vote too on that.
What I'll say is, I'm from a town in Ohio that has an event similar to this called the Dora District. And what it is an area within the community, businesses, downtown businesses that have groups like this or events like this that they put on. But it's funded by a downtown merchant group. It's not funded by taxpayers' dollars. And I'm not opposed to the event, but I don't think taxpayers' dollars should be funding it. And I think the downtown merchants need to come together if they don't already have the group. I know at one time they did. I don't know if they still have it today. But they need to develop the group and put on programs like this themselves without the taxpayers' dollars.
Mark, can I ask, what about German Fest, and how do you resolve that?
I look at that as a different event.
It's also Sister City.
Yeah.
Yeah. We give in kind. We don't, it's Sister City event, German Fest, and then Chris Kendall one.
I thought they got part of their budget from us,
They do.
like a big part,
They do.
like tens of thousands of dollars part, not just in kind.
$35,000 is typically, I believe, isn't it? Is it more than that?
More than that.
What is it now?
It's 80,000 per event, so it's
Per event.
160.
160,000?
That's
Yeah.
like kind services or cash?
No, cash.
Plus income.
This is how many events scheduled for 10? Is that right? I don't know if y'all have been, but it's,
But the EDC is not doing anything other than reimbursing for the advertising costs for the event. I don't know that, we're really making a comparison. I think we're looking at, the EDC sponsoring the event, and the EDC is not. The EDC is nothing more than reimbursing the advertising costs for the event. So as far as, are they promoting it, or, they're helping an entrepreneur who's come up with an idea to benefit sales in downtown businesses through advertising for it, through reimbursing that business for the advertising costs. I don't know if that makes a distinction in anybody else's minds, but
it's.
I was against the EDC spending money on statues. That's why I'm sitting here today.
that's why the Legacy Fund was created, to receive donations to pay for statues.
Let me say this, the TEDC gets 1/2 of every 1 cent that we collect in sales taxes, correct? Yes, 1/2.
The other half of
1/2 of 1 cent. For every 1 cent in tax dollars we get as sales dollars, 1/2 of every penny goes to TEDC. Right? What about those businesses who provide sales tax from their sales that don't participate in this? Is it fair to them? If a business chooses not to be involved in this, are they threatened in any way? Are they made to feel like if they don't participate, shame on them? Yep, word of the street is, yeah, that's fact. I've been contacted by a couple of business owners who have told me that for a fact, and I wasn't going to bring that up tonight. That they have actually had somebody come into them and say, if you don't participate, you're going to have hell to pay. So again, I don't know, guys, I have a real hard time with this one, real hard. I had a hard time with German Fest though, and y'all know that.
Yeah,
So I'm not changing my colors or my stripes in any way, shape, form, or fashion.
fair enough.
Yes, under the discussion, yes, you can come speak. It's discussion time,
Come up to the mic.
so you can come up.
Might remember me from the freaking out moment.
Please, your name and address.
My name is Natalie Kirtley. I am Kirtley and Company on 110 Commerce Street. I'd like to say that the sip and strolls not only help our businesses, we get so many women come in, but like you said about sipping, that is up to the discretion of the business owner. Not all businesses have to offer alcohol. For Christmas, I didn't offer a dime of alcohol. I had a Christmas punch. I offered a punch and I offered cookies, and not every business does that. And even some businesses who take a lot of care about thinking about alcohol like that, they hire bartenders to take care of their alcohol distribution. So they know that they are covering themselves and making sure that they don't overpour or overgive to somebody else. But I just want to say that this money, and speaking of other businesses who take sales tax dollars, well, I'm pretty sure doesn't that TDC like pay for someone's new awning? I'm paying for someone's new awning. It doesn't matter to me. But the sip and strolls are so wonderful to new businesses like me. My sales triple with sip and strolls. And it doesn't mean that I have to offer a dime of liquor to anybody or wine or anything. I can give them a Christmas punch, I can give them a cookie, I can give them nothing. It's an event to incentivize women and friends to come out and have a night together. That is what it is. And it is a wonderful time. I hope we have never had any problems. I've never had anything in my store. I've never known of any problems. So I just really would love for you to think about it again, because it really supports us and brings us all together. I mean, competing boutiques working together to bring in people to come and shop here and keep the money here. The German festival are carnivalies. They do leave here. We stay here. This is our family and these are our businesses. And we'd love it if you would help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I think there was a hand behind. Did you? I'm sorry, she was waving behind you.
Hi, I didn't expect to speak or anything today.
and
My name is
address.
Amy Bench. I live on 202 Florence Street in Tomball, Texas, and I have a small boutique on Main called Ultraviolets. I can tell you, it makes a huge difference to me. It makes a difference, this sip and stroll, for me to stay open or not stay open. And you can say German Fest, but being a business on Main, German Fest screws me. I might as well close. My store, my regular customers are not coming out. People going to German Fest are going to drink. I live on Florence Street, 4 miles back, And people at German Fest are coming here to drink and not shop Tomball. And so this is a huge difference for us. And like Natalie said, we're all working together on this. All the businesses are working together. Megan had a meeting the other day. If you don't want to serve alcohol, don't serve alcohol. And I'm sorry that people struggle with addiction and things like that, but we're serving alcohol at so many events here in Tomball. I mean, so many. I live off and German Fest or any bigger festivals. I live on Florence and Cherry. I don't know if you guys understand. I've woken up and had somebody drunk on my lawn. I have to close my lawn off so people don't drive on there. This is a huge event, and I'm sure you guys have seen the tax dollars, and it makes a difference where businesses can stay in Tomball, because some of these large ones, German Fest, ask these small businesses, if you're not on Market Street, I could close during German Fest. I mean, and German Fest does not help us on Main. It doesn't, it does not, it helps Market Street. And it's wonderful that it helps Market Street, but you're gonna single us out on something where we're asking for advertising. And as far as any of the businesses who don't want to serve alcohol, there's plenty of the businesses that don't serve it. I mean, we're not serving, if you're serving heavy liquor, maybe you should have a bartender, but we're giving people a little bit of champagne in a glass. I mean, where they choose to go afterwards or the things that we've had in town, can we pinpoint that the alcohol came from stores, or did it come from some of the restaurants or bars in town? I mean, it's just not fair for y'all not to grant this to us. I mean, we really, as small businesses, we really, really need this. And we on Main and some of the other small stores that are around here, we're the heartbeat of this town. You know what I mean? We're the ones that are bringing people in. And I'll tell you, and I don't want to say somebody's name, and not that it was anything negative, but I have an antique store around the corner who's explained to me that this is not a good event for them. But what it brings for these ladies and families who come back later to shop Tomball, she says she doesn't do well, but she sees so much repeat business capturing people, getting them to Tomball. So, you know, please take it into consideration, because it does make a huge difference to all of us, all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Megan Morris. I am actually the owner of Sip Hip Hooray. I wasn't fully prepared to speak tonight, so bear with me. I have always taken the alcohol aspect of this extremely seriously. I lost a parent to substance abuse. I have another parent in recovery. I grew up Baptist. I am no stranger to alcohol being a sensitive subject to people. I grew up that way. I want to expand upon the grant being, like Mr. Smith already, I think, cleared up that the EDC is not marketing the event. The event would be being marketed from an event page that is not sponsored by the city. It is not sponsored by the EDC. Sip Hip Hooray and our marketing firm operates it. It is completely under us. Along with the other merchants, there's nothing on there that says Tomball, EDC, city seal, nothing. I have a stack of paperwork here of people that support this, the other businesses. I have had stores cry to me on the phone telling me thank you, that this is how they paid themselves in January when they usually don't even take a paycheck. I've had stores tell me that they use this to pay their rent on months they would have struggled or had to use a partner's income to help float their business until holiday time. You know, there's plenty of cities in Texas. McKinney, I've done a lot of research on these things. When I try to check the boxes before I present things and take people's time. Sorry, I get a little emotional when I put this much work into things. McKinney does a sip and stroll. They call it a sip and stroll, and they actually, each event has a type of alcohol. They do a wine stroll, a margarita stroll, a beer stroll. Every store is assigned to serving a certain type of beverage. We're not asking stores to do that. And like Amy said, I did call a meeting, and I actually have worked to try to get some sort of a coalition of business owners together. I love that idea. And that's in my phase 2 of this, is to is to use this event to try to bring everyone together, because there is some unnecessary hostility between some stores in town. And that's other feedback I've gotten from this, is that this is the first time they feel like so many of the businesses have actually worked together on something. And some of these people have even been in a room together in years of having businesses in a stone's throw from each other. So that is definitely something I want to do moving forward, and I'm working on that. I've actually just collected everyone's email addresses. We've started communicating via email blast to streamline communication, make sure everyone's included. And that's what part of these funds will help with, is that everything not be so much on me and my staff, is that there are some funds to help with things like marketing, communications, bringing people together, making sure everyone's communicated to. I can't speak for every business in town. I can assure you, I have never shamed anyone if they don't participate. I've always been clear about, hey, some stores are ran by one person. They can't open at 10 and stay until 8 p.m. They have a family or they have to be somewhere. Each time we've done the event, we always have a few businesses that drop off due to, for example, well, I won't say specific businesses, but around Mother's Day, there are times that, or there's holidays, for example, Mother's Day, where some of the participating businesses, they're already so busy because of the nature of their business, they don't participate that time. It is asked every time we go down the list of people that have participated. I'm actually building out a website where people can go in and click, I want to participate, and they can enter their information and be added to the email blast. So I've always been very inclusive, and whatever you want to do at your business, I don't run anybody else's business. Same thing when we met this week about the alcohol, when I briefed everybody that we would be presenting here tonight. If you don't want to serve it, don't. And I never, nowhere in the invitation does it say every store will have free drinks, anything like that. The stores that I know do serve drinks, I've always made recommendations. If you don't feel comfortable, hire a TABC bartender. You're allowed to give alcohol away in your store. That's the state law. A TABC bartender can help you monitor while you're running your business in the event. If somebody seems to be overserved, they don't get served. And that's one of the perks with that. And it's something I've suggested, and I've provided a list of resources of people in the area, because I do work in the event industry, of a lot of companies that provide those types of services at reasonable rates. The other thing I have encouraged is to always have the pop-up trash cans from Party City. They're a couple bucks. Put one by your door, put one on the way to your door, put one in the back of your store by your cash wrap. Encourage people to either throw the cup away if they are drinking alcohol in the store, throw the cup away, pour it out, whatever, and move on. As far as the restaurants or anything like that, they have their own rules in place. If someone were to drink too much and try to go out to eat, they're licensed and trained to handle that situation. Again, I can't control or run their business for them, but the laws and rules are in place to mitigate that type of thing. So I just wanted to say that, I've always taken the alcohol part of this seriously, and I have helped to coach the other businesses using my event industry experience. I am TABC certified myself, though it's probably expired now. But I've always been hypersensitive to the fact that I didn't want the alcohol to be what deterred such a great program.
Okay, thank you, Meg.
Can I say one
Yes.
other thing? Earlier tonight, I mentioned something to Kelly about EDC helping businesses. I've listened to everybody tonight, made my comments already. You've changed my mind. And I will vote in favor of this tonight, because the city is not buying alcohol. Hopefully the city is not paying for any bartenders. And that I do want to help and promote local businesses and that, but I would like to see the downtown merchants come together and form a group where you put on events like this yourself. So I will vote for this one time, but please come together and put together a program amongst yourselves.
Mayor, I hold the motion, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, you do.
$40,000 is a lot of cash. It's on a reimbursement only. And they're looking, I believe, wasn't the number $3,200 or $3,500 for the rest of this year? And then 31,000 for next. What are the numbers, Kelly?
It's 4,500 per event.
4,500 And before that, it was 1,200? Okay, so 18 to 45, that's a heck of an increase.
2,000 of it was for just the social media application. It went from 500 to 2,500.
I'll go ahead and let y'all vote your conscience. I'm gonna vote mine, not a problem.
Any other discussions, questions, comments before we go for the vote? Okay, let's go for the vote.
Yeah, quick on that. No, well, you had it right there. No.
It's new.
Oh, these for the
New down.
annual report.
New down.
So he didn't go to the next vote.
Yeah.
He's at the annual, I didn't think he collected, hit yay, because that's what you voted on it. And then hit submit vote, okay, now you should be able to refresh, now you got that.
Or I think it's the computer. He never had issues over there.
No, it was Derek.
Motion to approve resolution number 2022-20-EDC on first reading carries 3 votes aye, 1 vote nay.
We've been out here for about 2 hours, and then 2 hours before that, I think we're going to take a 5-minute recess.
Great idea.
Yeah, you guys have been doing a lot.
Yeah, we've been going a while.
Since 4, I'm ready to keep on going.
I kind of thought this one would go faster after you had a 2-hour meeting before.
Mondays are always long days.
It's freaking nuts. I mean, every event. City Council is off. None of these people out here have ever worked in accident. Somebody's lost their head, motor vehicle accident. Or they're at the same time, 5 feet up in the air, or somewhere. Watch that man burn to death up by the ballpark. That's why, watch the kid burn it, the kid, the dad burn to death, dying on the road. On the baby on the ground, mom comes to the burn all the way. So the baby's on I want to be in control, you grab the most. Yeah, well, I just know. Yeah, we'll try. Good to see you, man.
Okay. We are reconvening council. Thank you for the break. The next item is item 4, approving resolution number 2022-21, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Tomball supporting the 49th Annual Tomball Night and Parade to be held on Tomball on Friday, August 5th, 2022. I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Okay, call for the vote.
Don't tell Bruce this is what we're voting on.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, next item on the agenda is to authorize the city manager to execute an interlocal. Interlocal, okay, interlocal agreement with Waller Harris ESD 200 for the sale and transfer of title of shop number 11-018, a 2011 Chevrolet Tahoe in the amount of $10,000. Jessica, please tell us about this item.
Sorry.
Oh.
Chief Cook.
Chief Cook, Jessica Cook.
Wow. Wow. So that's what the J stands for. Mayor, council, this is a vehicle that was replaced by your approval of the fiscal year 22 budget. It's helping an ESD that has a need that we no longer are in need of it. It's a $10,000 sale for us that we believe is more than we would get at public auction anyway. So it's a win-win for everybody. So our staff is in favor of it.
Okay, thank you. Entertain a motion to approve the interlocal agreement with Waller Harris ESD 200.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
Yes, ma'am. You can come back up, Chief. Yes, sir. David's probably gonna hate me for this, but that's okay. Been hated before. ESD 200 is in need of a vehicle that we have no need for, correct?
Yes.
David? And maybe Lauren, can we not just give it to them?
No, we cannot.
Can we sell it to them for $1,000?
You'd have to have somebody that would give you a, would tell you that $1,000 is the fair market value.
The reason I'm saying this is because service districts outside of ours may not have the taxable entities available to them. And I've always heard help your neighbors.
I understand.
Is there anything we can get it down to that they don't have to spend $10,000? I mean, that's bunker gear for a guy.
Oh, I understand.
That's putting a firefighter with some protective gear around him in that ESD.
Is there
Yeah, put
is there
three
an
of them in
appraisal
here.
on the?
I mean, we'd have to get some sort of an independent source to tell us what it was. I would anticipate, you might could go $8,000. I don't know.
And I can tell you that
I remember something somewhere where agencies, and I don't know if it applies to municipalities, but agencies can donate excess gear to other agencies in need.
They can. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I assume you're referring to through the state forestry department, service department?
You
The
know,
state-
truthfully, Chief, I can't remember the precise procedures and the pathway it has to go through, but at one time, excess nozzles, excess hose.
We did a bunch of stuff.
That's all through the state forestry department.
Okay.
Okay.
They kind of manage all that. I do not believe they do anything with vehicles.
Okay.
And PPE and other items that have a shelf life.
Right.
Aren't really done.
So, I mean, I understand this wanting to sell it. I can handle that, but if we can get it down to where we can help them out, to me, that's what we ought to do.
Okay, Mayor Council, I'm sorry, go ahead.
All I was going to say is, I remember when we acquired the parking lot where Tomball ISD used to have their admin building. We worked out an agreement with the ISD where we actually acquired the property for a lot less than the fair market value, because we were going from one taxable entity to another.
Correct.
And if we could do something like that, I would be in favor of that.
You know, the ESD is a political subdivision of the state of Texas.
So I guess.
Let me take a look at it and see. I'll have to look into it. I know that as a general rule, you can't sell municipal property without getting fair market value for it, but I can certainly look into it.
Can we, do we need to amend the motion in order to table this item?
Well, instead of tabling it, why don't we give staff, Lauren, correct me if I can do this, not give staff the ability to set a market or a fund on it that's acceptable legally.
Yeah.
And without it having to come back to us. I don't think it needs to come back to us. I think we're all in favor of selling it
Or giving it away.
or giving it away or whatever the case may
But you
be.
did up to $10,000.
Up to $10,000.
So it'd be anything less than that.
Anything less than $10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can do that. You'd have to amend your motion. And we have to go through the process that I know you love, where.
We have to vote on me allowing me to amend the motion.
Right. And then I'll figure it out. The other thing that would do is, they wouldn't have to wait another 2 weeks to get their Tahoe.
Correct. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is get it to them as expediently as we possibly can, but helping them out at the same time.
I could probably find out the answer to that question pretty quickly tomorrow.
Okay.
So you're amending your
So,
motion for
well,
up to $10,000.
Yes, ma'am, but we have to vote on allowing the amendment to be made.
Right.
You
Correct.
hold second, I hold first.
But right now, the vote is, can Derek, amend his motion?
Right.
Right.
Which doesn't need a second.
Right, okay, that's.
Does not need a
Yes,
second.
we are not voting on the agreement. We're voting on, can Derek amend the motion?
Correct.
Okay. So we have a first and a second.
We don't need
We
first,
don't need
second,
a
we're just calling,
It's better.
call the vote.
Call the vote. Vote is, can Derek amend the motion?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, it doesn't matter, go ahead. And then I'll come back. Okay, and then we're gonna vote on the same thing. again.
Approval for Councilman
All right.
Townsend to amend his motion carries
Right.
unanimously.
Now the motion is to,
Sell the vehicle to the ESD 200 for a price tag up to $10,000.
Right.
Right.
Or donate.
Rather
Or
than
don't-
sell,
or donate.
rather than sell, transfer the vehicle.
Transfer, that's
Right.
fine, transfer the vehicle.
So the motion is to transfer the vehicle to ESD up to an amount of $10,000.
ESD 200.
Right.
Waller.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Call for the vote.
Motion as amended carries unanimously.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is to approve TEDC grant expenditure to Paradigm Brewery in the amount of $39,295.90. And David, if you would please tell a little of the history and exactly what this agenda item is about.
Yes, ma'am. According to our purchasing and payment policies, any expenditure that exceeds $50,000 requires council approval to make that expenditure. The $39,295.90. The original allocation, the grant recipient did not receive those funds. And this item was to refund those funds. And if you add those two together, then it exceeds the 50,000.
So the grant amount is
It's
$89,295.
just under 80. So the
Okay.
39.
So the grant, since Paradigm did not receive that, this is a motion to pay them the just under
Right.
$80,000 to Paradigm Brewery.
$78,591.80 is the total grant.
You requesting a
Okay.
motion? Are you requesting a motion?
Uh,
Or do you have to
Yes,
read
no,
something?
I wanted to
that's
make
it.
sure everybody understood what item is on the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So motion.
Second. You get adjourned.
Okay.
I'm gonna yield this to you,
Call for
sir,
the
since it's your
discussion.
last meeting.
Call for the
He gets the
discussion.
adjournment motion.
Hmm?
He gets the adjournment motion.
I'm getting this one. I'm okay with it.
Any discussion?
Was the reason that we're making this payment now, were they delayed in finishing their building, or it was just? a second payment?
Randy, why do you have to
No.
ask these questions?
Okay, the reason for this was because of computer. We had some computer hacking and the funds were diverted
It was not hacking on our end.
to the hacker. That's
The,
right.
the original grant did not get to the intended recipient.
Sorry.
No, it's right.
All right, good question.
Everything's in the.
I was gonna bring it up anyhow.
I was kidding.
Okay, any other discussions on this?
People, this is taxpayers' dollars again. We're supposed to be good stewards of it. And that's what we take an oath of office to do, is to be good stewards of our community. And because somebody had a problem on their end, doesn't necessarily constitute the emergency on our end.
I understand, but I feel like we have to take responsibility for the thing we did. And we can kind of look at what they did and how that all happened. But at the end of the day, when we move money, and it really doesn't matter why, we own that. We own that to the end. I mean, you could split it, you could, I could see a case where we split some finger point, but at the end of the day, it's like, hey, we push the button, that's our deal. So we better not push the wrong button.
Do you know what FOB means?
Yes,
What does it mean?
it's a shipping term.
What does it mean?
It means the ownership transfers when it arrives, or if it's FOB destination, it means
the person who shipped it stops their ownership of it the moment it's shipped, and the receiving end is now responsible for it.
Right.
FOB destination, FOB from
X-Works.
huh?
Wow.
FOB from here, or whatever the other term is, means that I'm responsible for it all the way through.
Right.
Sorry, I asked the question.
Oh, no, it needed to be.
Does this money go against TDC's budget?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna call for the vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, next item on the agenda is to approve the request from Progresso Multicultural Foundation for city support and in-kind services for the very first Fiesta de Tomball and Festival in downtown Tomball on Saturday, September 24th, 2022. Sasha. Please tell us about this item.
Hello again. It is my pleasure to bring to you this proposition from a nonprofit called Progresso Multicultural Foundation. So they want to host a multicultural festival in Tomball, and their festival will support local businesses and youth and help to promote and bring together all the different cultures that reside within Tomball and neighboring communities. Their event will look a lot like our typical festival. They will have food vendors and lots of craft vendors in the area, but they'll have live music, and we are recommending in-kind services to help that event take place in Tomball and hopefully become the annual tradition. And in the recommendation, you can see that we would like to waive the depot rental fee for them and just provides the barricades on South Walnut Street. So we've met several times with the team at the Progresso Multicultural Foundation to discuss ways we can make the event more efficient and help them make it a successful event in terms of marketing and organization as well. So we're helping them with the trash services and with 2 police officers as well as 6 public works employees. And all of this is based on the previous events that the city held. So it's in the same capacity or smaller.
Do we have an estimate of amount of the in-kind services? What it would be? Or does it?
We list them as the personnel
Okay.
that would be dedicated for that 4-hour, 5-hour event.
5-hour event. Mhm.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, 2 police officers and 6 public works employees.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion to entertain a motion to approve request?
Motion.
Second. Do I have a second?
Okay.
Okay. All right, discussion?
I'll be there.
All in, call for the vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, next item is the executive session where we will consult with city attorney requiring a matter which the attorney duty requires to be discussed in closed session. We will be returning to adjourn. There will
No
not be-
action will be taken, well, other than adjourning.
Oh, yeah, we don't have another item to vote on. It's 8:15. Oh,
And then you don't have.
it's 8:15. No, it's gonna beginning at 8:15. I know, that's why I said. Can you just check next to? Why? The